Bye, Denny!
Rah!
Bye, Denny!
For scheduling is during a 49er game, so no, Denny would have none of it for sure. So, our apologies for starters. But for starters, we're going to have the mayor of Carmel and the de facto mayor of Pebble Beach.
Carmel is a village, it's really not a city. We pride ourselves on the fact that we have a variety of different ordinances that are rather odd.
Like no addresses on the houses. That can be a real pain.
The best way to get your house recognized is to have a name on the house. There's a variety of different names. Some of them can be a little bit cute, and some of them are actually relevant to the location. And then it's a little different to not have mail service. You have to go to the post office and actually get your mail, and it's an opportunity to meet your neighbors.
The high yield permit is in place in order to protect people walking around because we don't have flat cement sidewalks.
It's bizarre. It's funny.
When tourists come into Placer Shore, we arrest them sometimes when they're looking at stilettos, like, oh, you better go over to the mayor's office and get your permit.
You can now eat ice cream, and you can now buy an ice cream cone. Eating ice cream was discouraged for many years because there was always a fear that you'd make a mess and waste resources to go and have to wash up the streets to keep it clean if you were currently your ice cream. It was not really a law, but it was just a rule of thumb that you really shouldn't be consuming ice cream on a public street in Carmel.
In Cypress Inn, we have a happy hour that starts at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And you bring your dogs. And it's a great time, a great place. You meet every different sort of dog you can imagine. There's little quirks about Carmel that makes Carmel Carmel. And frankly, I love it.
Carmel City Hall is actually less than a mile from the Pebble Beach golf links. The tradition of golf and the community of Carmel go hand in hand. This is a great opportunity for us to host the U.S. Open, the 100-year anniversary of the Pebble Beach golf links. We're proud to have you here. Welcome to Carmel.
There's no better host than Carmel by the Sea. Can't wear high heels in town. You have to go to the mayor's office. Kevin Bacon, who is a huge fan of golf on Fox, would be pleased to know you can dance.
So that was the 2019 U.S. Open, aired all over the country. A great advertisement for Carmel, which of course was Denny's intent. So we have a series of speakers today, and I'm going to introduce them. Don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. So we're starting off with Bill Holston, who was a classmate and fraternity brother of Denny's at UOP. And these were in chronological order. I think Bill has probably known Denny longer than anybody in this room. And I'm going to let Bill tell you the name of the fraternity because I can't remember it. Then Bill Reller, who was Denny's original partner in Cal Lands in Palo Alto and got Denny going up there. And Bill and Denny have been cohorts in Palo Alto real estate all those years, 60 years, Bill, or right around there. Next would have been Connie Corbett, Denny's great old pal, who's a vintner up in Napa, but unfortunately, Connie can't be with us today because he's got a little medical issue going. Next will be Chris's old partner in all of his Carmel Pebble Beach projects, Chris Tesher, who many of you I'm sure know. And then, where are you, Mark? Mark Paul Hedberg. It's a misprint in the program. It's actually, Paul Hedberg was his dad. He is Mark Paul Hedberg. And he's Denny's cohort at Lake Okoboji. And then it'll be Kate LeVett Crane, Denny's daughter. Yes, it will be. And and then finally, Gene will wrap up the program. So That's it, folks. And here we go. Bill?
I was looking at Denny's book, and on the back to school, which is, I think, maybe the second chapter, there's 263 pages in the book, but only 1.5 pages dedicated to the 4 years that we spent together at Pacific. And yet, I could probably fill a book with the stories of Denny LeVett at Pacific. And we had a lot of great times together, friendship, a lot of teasing, a lot of laughter. And who's here from Pacific? Raise your hand. That's it. Maybe that's why we only got a page and a half. So I started out to make a list of all the things that Denny was involved in at Pacific. And I found I didn't have to, because in this chapter, Back to School, he tells us, if I may, it was cool then, going back to UOP after my trip to Europe. I was older and wiser, with much more to talk about, making for interesting listening, especially amongst the COP girls. Then he goes on to say, if I do say so myself, I have become a pretty damn popular man around campus. Now, nobody's surprised at this, but it goes that far back. He said, very shyly, I was the college comedian, actor, dancer, and cheerleader. That meant I always had cute girlfriends. Yes, I guess you could say that I was a big man on campus. And it was at this point that I knew for certain that I wanted 3 things in my life: fame, sex, and money. So you never changed, did you? No. Denny had a gun business in college. He actually sold guns, and he also had a business selling cars. I'll tell you just a couple of the stories. One that he just told me recently was with regard to the guns. It was a different time frame then. People didn't bring guns on campus and shoot people and do that kind of stuff. There wasn't regulations on the sale of guns, and he was very busy. He bragged about how much money he made selling the guns. But he had one incident he just recently told me about. He sold a gun to the son of a prince from Saudi Arabia. And the kid fired the gun on campus. So Denny ended up at the dean's office with the kid, gave the kid his money back, and took the gun back. But that was the only incident where there was any issues at all. The next thing is, what he used to do is buy damaged sports cars, and then he would clean them up and put beautiful paint jobs on, like pearlescence black, just shined, and it was so deep, absolutely beautiful. So he did this to a Corvette, and I remember he was talking to the purchaser out in front of the fraternity house, and the guy was asking him all kinds of questions, and he asked him if this car ever been damaged or anything wrong with it at all. And Denny was just, oh my God, how could you ask that of me? So the guy bought the car, took off, waved it goodbye, went out in one of the levees in Stockton just to open it up, with no traffic and that kind of stuff. He was gone about 45 minutes. He came back, parked in front of the fraternity house. I happened to be there. I saw the car. It looked like it had been hit by mortar fire. All the Bondo popped off, and covered up by this beautiful paint job. And the guy was screaming for Denny, and Denny was nowhere to be found. Denny, just like today, dressed immaculately back then too. And I remember I always teased him, but we were really dear friends. And I remember one time he was sporting a very fancy sport coat and stuff, and I said, geez, Denny, that's a great looking sport coat. How did you ever find it in the boys department? So when Denny and I were seniors in college, we went to a party with other fraternity brothers on the peninsula, and in advance of that party, Denny and I talked about going to Hawaii, and so we got tickets, and we were planning to leave after the party. But Denny being Denny, he got on the phone and pretended like he was talking to the airport and the airlines and making reservations for he and I to go spontaneously at that moment as wild and crazy guys and go to Hawaii. And the place just went up for grabs. They thought, these guys are really nuts. Just doing something so spontaneous. But that was Denny. And we had a great time. It was a long flight in those days. It was a prop plane. We ended up sitting right by the wing. And we were screaming at each other just to talk. It took 13 hours to get to Oahu. Wow. But we had a great trip and a lot of fun. Later on, as the years went by, I would see Denny periodically, but then a group was formed, and Denny was part of the formation of that. It was called the Old Farts. And it was just our friends from college. Some of them became prominent people, like my three friends here, of course, but like Tom Flores, Wayne Hawkins, who were part of the original Raiders, for example. And we stayed together for probably 30 years. We haven't had one now for a few years. But every time that we came down to Carmel for one of the parties, and we would stay for 3 days, play golf, go out to dinner, Denny was the perfect host. Everything was just immaculate and charming and all. But there was one thing about Denny, whether it was in Carmel or whether it was up in Santa Rosa, Denny was always the last person to arrive at the party. And everybody would be seated, and all of a sudden the door would open with a flourish, and throwing wide open, and here came Denny with his ascot and his flowered handkerchief and a big smile on his face, and he was just so charming. It reminded me, and some of you may remember this, the TV show Loretta Young, and she would just throw open the door. Anyway, that was Denny. But he just lit up the room, and everybody was always excited to see him. Years ago, I remember seeing in Reader's Digest, they had a column on it called The Most Unforgettable Character I Ever Met. You may recall that. It was a person would always be very unique, and Denny was unique. He would have been the person that I would have selected to be the most unforgettable person I ever met. He had a dramatic presence, he always dressed dramatically, and he was Mr. Charm. He was born a generation too late. He should have been a vaudevillian. He loved all the musicals. He loved all the dancers and all the actors from the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. I think that when Denny approached the pearly gates, he had on his pink sport coat, he had his ascot, he had his handkerchief, and I think that I can just picture St. Peter throwing open the gates with a commensurate flair and embracing Denny and saying, "Denny, my friend, we've been waiting for you." And behind Denny, singing and dancing were James Cagney, Gene Kelly, Danny Kaye, and Ethel Merman. So in closing, ciao for now, Denny.
Ciao for now.
I just have never seen that picture before, but that is such a live, real, I just love it. I met Denny in 1961, so that's almost 65 years ago. And that proves that some of you in the room here are considerably younger than I. Joe was speaking that he met Denny actually before I did, but Denny and I both started in the real estate business in Palo Alto in 1961. I was with Floyd Lowe and he was with Griscom and Company, and one thing led to another. Following a few years, Denny, Duncan, and I formed a partnership, and I got to know each of them as someone that each one of them was just larger than life. And as I signed in, those were the term I used in following my signature. Duncan was 6'2", great athlete, University of Missouri basketball, a great golfer, and Denny was 5'7", maybe, and on a good day. So I never knew anybody that changed their name so many times. When I knew him, it was 6 letters, and there was just a cap on the first letter. And then one was added at the end, and then somewhere that came off and got as it is today, a capital V. So it is as it should be. Duncan did quite well in real estate and beyond, founding Mid-Peninsula Bank. Denny did extremely well, owning half of Carmel and partnering with a movie star. The three of us formed Stanford Financial Company in the early 70s, enjoyed a successful partnership for about 15 years. Denny and I owned the Landing Chateau, which is in his book, in downtown Palo Alto. It'll be 100 years old in 2 years. There might be a celebration for it. It was something that was a key piece of property, one of the taller buildings downtown, and it was something that he always wanted to own. We know, I'm sure all of you know of Denny's gun collection, not to mention toy soldiers, Ferraris, and whatever else, and his generosity. I've personally had the chance to see his contributions to the Autry Museum down south and the Buffalo Bill Center in Cody, Wyoming. We'll all agree that Denny, as I said, is one of a kind. In every measure. In case you haven't had a chance to read the Dennis LeVett story, make sure you get a copy of it. It's just fascinating. He wrote the whole thing himself, and it just explains who Denny was. Thank you for listening to me, and my very best to Gene and the family.
I actually met Denny through a woman that he was dating years ago when he had first moved down here. Her name was Karen Rowe, and I knew Karen because she was kind of a decorator and liked to fix houses up and do things. And she went through her first husband's money trying to do that. And so I started, talking about, well, how you could, she had just bought another house because she had gotten divorced, and she wanted me to look at it and see what I could do to, fix it up and make some money. And it was a nice kind of ranch style house across from the mission up on the hill there. And I said, well, I think this is a nice house, Karen. I think you don't have to do a whole lot here. You got to just upgrade it a little bit. That's fine. She goes, well, I met this person in the store that I'm working in, and he came up and looked at it, and he thought instead of having we should get rid of the garage and put 2 bedrooms there. And I go, really? And she goes, yeah, I guess he's in the real estate up in Palo Alto, and bedrooms are much more valuable than garages. And I said, well, that could be true. It kind of depends on how the whole house is laid out and da-da-da-da-da. So I looked at it and I said, well, you know, there's 100 realtors here you can talk to, and they'll give you their opinion, and you can figure out what you want to do. But I don't think there's a developer in Carmel that would take the garages and make them into bedrooms. People here, you know, you can't park on the street hardly anywhere, so the garages are important. Anyway, so it turned out it was Dennis LeVett. I met him the next day. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't want to get involved I think you guys have to do some thinking and figure out what to do. You can go either way and it might work, but you know, you got to do things right. That's the main thing. You have to show people that you know what you're doing. Like you can't have a bedroom and then put a car in it, which is something Denny talked about. So, anyway, that kind of got us going. Karen, and it's like she was in the middle of a divorce. Her husband bought this house, and she decided just to leave it the way it is. But another house came on the market a few years later, and it was a house that sat on two lots, kind of sat between two lots. And I thought that I called Karen. I said, "Now this might be an interesting property because you could actually build two houses. The house sits scattered, you know, both lots, but take the house down, build a new house here, build a new house there." And so I said, "Why don't you talk to Denny and see what he thinks?" You know, he does a lot of this stuff. And Denny loved the idea. Anytime you could double bedrooms in a house, you're on the right track. I don't know, the guy wanted, I don't know, 600,000 or something, which kind of didn't make sense. And anyway, Denny offered him 400,000 and a 5-day escrow. And the guy goes, "Oh, that makes it a little bit more interesting." And anyway, so then he finally haggled the guy down to even half that or something. Anyway, we remodeled one house and then built a new house, and we did very well. I mean, Denny was just absolutely ecstatic. Mainly because he could see that Karen could maybe make some money and not spend so much of his. Karen and I, we must have done about, I don't know, 20 houses or so, or something like that. And then, you know, Denny got more involved in it and doing things. Over, I think, the last 50 years or so, we've probably built 40 or 50 houses in Carmel, and all on the inspiration of, you know, knowing when it has to be a bedroom or when it has to be a garage. And not too many people know that, as I found later on. But he was you know, he was the best partner you could ever have. He never ever questioned, you know, or butt into. He just let us do what we did, and we did it pretty well. And after, you know, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I go, you know, Denny, thinking about this, I think you probably have the right idea. Is, you know, buy it, rent it, you know, until the market just goes up, and then sell it. You know, if the market stays low, just keep renting it, and make some income doing that. So he actually talked me into doing a couple houses where we, you know, instead of tearing them down, we rented them and everything. And in the long run, it probably made it more money. And I said, it makes more money, but it's not nearly as fun, it seems. And he goes, Tesh, we're not here to have fun. And I said, well, there has to be a little bit of that in there somewhere. But anyway, we still have a couple of projects that we're doing, and, you know, and hope that that'll probably be the end of it, but it's been, I don't know, 40, 50 years of just, you know, doing, what we think makes sense, and it's worked out well for me. It's certainly worked out well for Denny too, I think. And in closing, I just gotta say that in looking back on it all, he probably had the right idea. He was more correct than I was. I probably might have been a little bit more lucky than I should have been, but he was an absolute joy to be around and work with, and especially going to hotels over in Hawaii that he used to go to all the time and have dinner with them over there. Because when you walk into the restaurant, everybody there knew him. You know, even the busboy came out, and the dishwasher comes out. You know, and I remember there was Bill Cox, who was trying to get some Palo. We were over at this restaurant having dinner, and there was a special on prawns or something, some special that come up, and Denny says, "Oh, this is great, my favorite dish, prawn." Tells the waiter, "Lillian, give me 3 times more than what I'm serving is." She goes, "Oh, Miss Sir, Mr. LeVett, exactly what you want." So I said, "Well, I'll order an order of it," you know, Denny orders 3 orders. So my bill came to, I don't know, $50, his came to $250. And he had to call the manager over and explain who he was. Oh, I tell you, it was hilarious. It was never a dull moment, no matter what you were doing. You could get on a bus going down the street and you were going to have a good time. Anyway, I certainly will miss him. I'm sure everybody in this room are probably in the same situation. But at the end of the day, it was just a joy to be around and work with.
Booze, you can draw a crowd on a Sunday afternoon, even if the 49ers are on TV. It hasn't been mentioned yet. I thought maybe Bob would maybe let it slip. But as you might imagine, even in all this grandeur and the size of Monterey Peninsula Country Club, it's not big enough to hold an event, a celebration of life of this magnitude. So we have other places that are also celebrating and watching it right now. I'd like to bring in camera 2 over at the Sunset Center. Hi, everybody. I understand we have 1,000 people at Sunset Center right now. Bring in camera 3. I want to say hi to everybody at the Roof Garden Ballroom, high atop overlooking beautiful Lake Okoboji Island, where it's 27 degrees right now. Today's event is meant to be lighthearted. That's what Denny would have wanted. That and a parade, a flyover by the Blue Angels, and a 21-gun salute. Or as he would say, a 21-sun salute. My name is Mark Hedberg, and I'm in the program as Paul, and I'll answer to that because that was my father. Mark Paul Hedberg is my name, and my dad ties into my first story. So back in 1998, my wife is here, and our youngest daughter, Natalie is here, Christy and Natalie, oldest daughters now. But anyway, 1998, we came out for the month of February and rented a place. And the girls were little, now you had 5 and 3. And so I talked to my dad, Paul, every other day or so. And he said, "Well, have you gotten a hold of Denny yet? He knows you're out there, he's expecting your call." And I said, "Well, no, I haven't." So finally, with about 3 days to go in the trip, and he said, "Well, have you gotten a hold of Denny?" "Well, no, I haven't." He said, "Well, are you going to call him or not? He knows you're there, you'll like him, he'll like you. Call him." All right, so I called in. "Hello? Oh my God, Mark, I thought you were among the missing. I know you leave in just a couple of days. Bring Christy and the little girls and meet me at the Cypress Inn tonight at 7:30. So we go over, and sure enough, Dad was right, we hit it off. And after about 2 hours, then he says, "Now tomorrow, as we're wrapping up. Hey, tomorrow, I have to go to Palo Alto. But I want you and Christy and the girls to go out to the beach club and be my guest. They'll have the best table, and they know you're coming." So the proof, or the meaning of the story is, you never forget the first time you meet LeVett. I'm going to get a little heavy here for a minute. I know many of you would like to think that Denny is here with us today. I don't share that belief. I'm convinced he is recording this and will watch it later. Right now, he is out looking for properties to buy. You know, he has found the perfect rental market in heaven. Everyone is a good tenant, and they all have eternal life. In heaven, Denny is 6 inches taller. And he has convinced Doris that they should reshoot all of her movies with him as the leading man. Imagine Denny as James Garner in The Thrill of It All. Imagine Denny as Rock Hudson in Pillow Talk. No, I can't either, but I thought I'd just throw it out there. Denny's partner at the Cyber City was gracious enough to let her buy in. We have a video right now. It's a short. Denny didn't just mess with local TV stations. This is out of the Bay Area, KGO, I think, in San Francisco. But we'd like to run the video of Denny talking about his partner, the late Doris Day, who had just recently passed away.
We all watched Doris Day movies. And the dream of, I swear to God, every boy was, I want to meet a girl like that someday.
That was 34 years ago when Denny LeVett agreed to let Doris Day buy half of his hotel, the Cypress Inn.
This is when we first became partners. And what a delightful lady. What a gal.
Just this January, he called her to say happy anniversary and to thank her for a beautiful partnership.
Denny, I don't think I've ever been with one man for 34 years. Where's Doris Day? The sort of humor, wit, just like that.
That signature humor lit up the screens with movies like Pillow Talk and Calamity Jane. She starred next to the era's biggest leading men, from Rock Hudson to Jimmy Stewart, taking home a string of awards, including...
But what a great interview to have Denny. Isn't he something? Denny's passing has had an economic impact on the Monterey Peninsula. Red car sales are down. Giant poodle sales are down. Shares of AT&T and Verizon are down as all 10 of his lines have been turned in. And let's have a moment of silence for his two favorite cell phone lines, his two favorite numbers, 831-601-1000 and 831-595-0069.
Uh-oh, 69.
I had no idea how impressive, successful, and forward-thinking Denny was until I read his autobiography. The Denny LeVett story as told by Denny LeVett. And this is an autographed copy, by the way, Tesher. I got one and you didn't. I suggested to Denny that he put one of these, and I'm serious, they should still do it. Joseph, you're roaming around here? But this should go into every hotel, Casey, every hotel room that Denny had, and it should go in there in place of the Gideon Bible. Denny will enjoy, or the Nope, that's great. But I suggested that we should put the Denny LeVett story in all the hotel rooms and replace it instead of the Gideon Bible. People will love it because this book only has 7 commandments. But no doubt Denny was successful. You can always tell a wealthy old person they've never been to Costco. And I always threatened to take Denny to Costco. And can you imagine him at Costco? What? You mean they don't sample the wines? I'm going to get serious for just 1 minute. I want to finish up by talking directly to his grandchildren, Liam, Henry, and Camille. Liam, you being the oldest, it's going to be up to you to remember your grandfather and to make sure your siblings don't forget him. You can always do this by dressing well, just like you are today. In his book, your grandfather said that his grandfather, A.J. Struce, taught him that clothes make the man,
and that you dress well to show respect towards the people you meet. And I hope that all three of you kids find a career that you love as much as he did. You see, most wealth is not a get-rich-quick kind of thing. Your grandfather's success took 65 years to get where it is today. I always want you to remember one of his favorite lines: busy hands are happy hands. To the rest of you, I want to say that I owe Denny and LeVett a great thanks. It's because of him that I have so many in this room that are good friends. And in the words that we've heard earlier, ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
All right. Dennis A. LeVett, author, actor, aviator, adventurer, and my amazing father. We all know my father was the biggest man in every room, not in stature, but in personality and in character. He was vibrant and approachable, kind, and wickedly funny. He was wit-quick with his witty responses, and he was the funniest person I've ever met. Growing up with my dad, I was often either laughing or slapping my hand over his mouth to keep him from belting out some 1940s song. His favorite place to break out into song was in a quiet restaurant. I would slap my hand over his mouth, completely mortified, and my dad would just smirk mischievously. These are now some of my favorite memories. I remember my dad bouncing me on his knee when I was very little, singing ba-rum, 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 bum, bum. I remember him twirling me on the dance floor at daddy-daughter dinner when I was 5 years old. I remember eating pancakes with my dad at our Farrell Sisters in Okoboji, our favorite diner. I remember setting off fireworks with my dad, or at least standing a very safe distance away while he lit them. I remember our Iowa road trip where he showed me his hometown, Iowa Falls, and the speeding ticket my dad and I talked our way out of. We made a great team. I remember our father-daughter fishing trips where he would fish with one hand and talk on his cell phone with the other. And I remember one of my favorite dinners of all time with my dad, Gene, and my husband, Casey, where my dad asked if we would like to see his pilot's license. I said, sure, Dad.
It's so old.
He then pulled out a card for display, and when Jean saw us squinting at it, she said, Denny, that's your Medicare card. My dad gave the most perfectly timed sheepish grimace. Now, whenever Casey and I make or witness a blunder, we make a sheepish grimace just like my dad. I have so many classic Denny memories. I can't believe the man who would bring life to every room he stepped foot into was my dad. I am that lucky. My dad always had a way of lifting me up. He never failed to tell me how proud he was of me, which absolutely means the world to me. For example, I was chosen to speak at my 8th grade graduation. I wrote an almost nonsensical speech about a broken car that was meant to symbolize the journey of life. Honestly, it was not great, but according to my dad, I gave Winston Churchill some competition. And he would never let me forget how phenomenal that speech was. And when I worked at the front desk at Cypress Inn, according to my father, I was the best front desk agent that has ever existed. The world has never seen such excellence in hospitality. And most importantly to me, he always told me what a wonderful mother I am. I am so thankful to my dad for lifting me up every time I spoke to him, because for the rest of my life, I'll have his voice in my head whenever I'm feeling down or not good enough. There are a lot of reasons my dad was a great man. Being a great father was one of them. I have 1,000,001 things I'd like to say about my debonair father, but I think I'll end it with this. Dad, I love you so much, more than I can put into words. Leah, Henry, and Camille love their Baba so much, and I promise to share memories and stories of you with them often. Casey loves you, and he'll miss you so much, Commander Denny. I'm so proud to be your daughter, and I'll miss you every day. And Dad, ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
LeVett, and I want to thank you all for coming. I'm not going to speak long directly to you about anything, although I have to say, during all these speeches, there were so many backstories I wanted to say. Oh, you forgot about this, well, what about that? Well, I mean, Denny was just the most amazing man I've ever met, and he has left a huge hole in my heart, and I know Kate's and the rest of the families. And I just have to stop there, or otherwise it's going to get maudlin. So, but I'm also up here to speak to you from Connie Corbett, who couldn't come, who is one of his oldest and dearest friends also, because of a medical condition. And he wrote an ode to the little fella. But what you have to know is that Connie is also a little fella. I mean, there maybe was an inch or two between the two of them, no more. And I think Connie was shorter. Who was shorter?
That was the source of the argument.
Yes, that was the source of the argument, Bob said. Anyway, before I get to that, I do want to say thank you all for coming. And I'd also like to thank a few people who really stood by Denny and me over the last 6 months. As you probably all know, he had a stroke in March, and that's when things really started to go downhill, even though he started to get a little better, but it just didn't last. So I'd like to thank the 4 people who were the most patient, giving, and professional caregivers I've ever worked with. And over the last number of years, we've had a number of different caregivers. But these people are the most amazing, and if anybody wants to contact them, just let me know. And that is Jing, Lisa, Lynn, and Marlon. And I'm telling you, they were the reason that I could get through it all. And then there are 3 of Denny's dearest friends who were dedicated to Denny over the past months. Really longer than that, but certainly when things got tough, they got going. And that is Bob Bjorn, the ever optimistic optimist who knew Denny would inevitably recover. So Bob would hear nothing about Denny deteriorating. So that was great. It always gave me a good feeling, but also I was seeing what was happening. Then there was Tom Bruce. Now Tom Bruce has known Denny for years also, and he was Denny's mother hen with food. I call him the chef. Our refrigerator was always packed with things for Denny and his sustenance. So thank you, Tom. And then there was Carmine Esposito, who was Denny's ever watchful protector against everything, against people. He'd say, that person isn't really Denny's friend, what? Or taking Denny anywhere he wanted to go, doing anything, and also caring for Denny's 4 poodles, he and his wife Patty, who just love those dogs. So with that, I'm going to read Ode to the Little Fella by Connie Corbett. Born in 38 to Eloise and Frank, raised with Brother Bill on Walleye Pike. That is an Okoboji favorite. Walleye Pike aren't everywhere in the world, so that's good. On Walleye Pike. He left Iowa Falls to go to COP, which then later became UOP, where he enjoyed football and acting, which he embraced with glee. He landed a stint as a munchkin in Oz, but it gave him a complex and filled him with pause. Post-college offered circus jobs as a dwarf or a midget, but the pay was abhorrent and filled him with pause. Made him fidget for higher digits. He made his way to Palo Alto, where he met Ruth, his first wife, and discovered real estate as a profession, a springboard to a new life. He started Stanford Financial with Duncan and Bill. That's when I joined them as an apprentice with skill. He much enjoyed remodeling. He had an affinity for walls, always making one bedroom 2, and 2 more with the halls. Together we bought, do you see any, thread through all of the secrets? Together we bought Benbow Inn, which I didn't know, because Denny never told anyone, right? Very funny. So together we bought Benbow in '75. As innkeepers, we loved it and also thrived. In '79, on a trade, we bought the Vagabond in Carmel, but Palo Alto was home, so to the little guy, I did sell. He met and married Karen and had Amanda and Kate, but put Ferraris in the garage. Colt Patterson's were his fate. His innkeeping blossomed with Cypress and more, while Strutz LeVett in Palo Alto continued to roar. His wife Jean was his muse, both inimitable and smart, as his protector and partner, and close to his heart. Kate and Casey gave him grandkids, Liam and Henry, so cute. God bless them with Camille, so adorable to boot. We will all miss the guy. He was one of a kind, so many stories to tell, so many memories sublime. So raise your glasses when you can to toast Denny, perhaps with head slightly bowed, and know that he's saying, cheerio, ciao for now. For the day of Denny and Diana Ross at the Couches. I think it was their 25th wedding anniversary about, 8 years ago or so. May we have the video? And then, enjoy yourselves, and then at 4 o'clock, I don't know what time it is now, there will be a bell ringing out on the patio to honor Denny. So thank you all for coming, and please enjoy yourselves and tell stories that are funny about Denny.
Bye, Denny!
Rock!
Bye, Denny. Ciao for now. Ciao.
Ciao for now!
Woo!
You couldn't arrange a 21-gun salute. Huh?
Yeah, that would have been great. We could have, or the F-35 flyover.
We could have been a 21 Sun Galoot.
So if you